This story is about Brendan's Dinosaurs.
Brendan's big Christmas present this year was a Jurassic playset with pretend swamp, a volcano, a few cycad trees and lots of his favourite dinosaurs, and that gave him an idea.
With his friend Acorn Squirrel he'd ridden on a dumper, a tractor and even a dolphin. But there was one thing he'd always wanted to try, and it could happen only in the story world.
That night, when Acorn asked where he'd like to go in his dreams, Brendan said, "I would like to have a ride on a dinosaur."
Acorn frowned. "There aren't any dinosaurs left in our world, Brendan. They all died out long, long ago, even before people were invented." "Yes, I know. An enormous rock came in from space and crashed into the earth, and then dinosaurs couldn't live here anymore. It was a bit sad." "Well, that's true, but I'm not sure you'd like having lots of dinosaurs around these days, especially not the big fierce ones like Tyrannosaurus, or even the small fierce ones like Velociraptor." Brendan grinned. "No, I wouldn't want to ride on any of them." "But there were big friendly ones too, weren't there?" "Oh, the giant sauropods, you mean? Yeah, some of them were 20 times bigger than Tyrannosaurus, and they didn't need to worry about anything, so they were probably gentle and friendly. Anyway, there's one way to find out. Climb aboard." Brendan made himself small enough to climb onto Acorn's back, and they dived into a picture book all about dinosaurs. When they landed, Brendan had a good look around. There were lots of ferns and things that looked like trees, but where's all the grass? "Oh, grass hadn't been invented in dinosaur times, Brendan, and there are none of the trees or animals that you know. Well, there are insects and fish and reptiles, but no birds. They won't be along for millions of years yet, and it will be even longer before people like you arrive." Brendan pointed up into the sky. "What's that flying around then? It looks a bit like a bird." "Oh, that's pterodactyl. He's not a bird. No feathers, you see, just leathery wings like a bat. But much bigger." Brendan saw something small perched on a low branch of one of the strange trees. "That one over there has feathers, Acorn, and it looks the right size for a bird, like the blackbirds in my garden." "Ah, that's Archaeopteryx. His name means ancient feathers, you know. He's not a true bird, though. Can't fly very well. He's got teeth instead of a beak, and he's much too small for you to ride on. And speaking of small, look over there. That's Compsognathus. He's one of the smallest dinosaurs. He couldn't give you a ride even if you stayed small. You'd have to hold on to him and fly, and that's not what you want, is it?" Brendan agreed. "I need to find a big, friendly dinosaur." Acorn pulled him to hide behind a tree. "Not that one," he whispered, pointing, and they stayed very still until a big Tyrannosaurus stomped past. When he'd gone, Acorn said, "Well, Charlie, we didn't need to hide. We're in storybook world, so there wasn't any danger. They're scary, though, aren't they?" Brendan said, "Well, that's because they're big and we're small. If I turned into a giant..." Acorn laughed. "Yeah, that's right. Old Tyran would run a mile if he saw you towering over him. Anyway, now he's gone, the other dinosaurs will come out. How about that one?" Brendan looked carefully. The creature was as big as an elephant, with 3 large horns. "Is it a Triceratops?" "He certainly is. Well done." "He'd be big enough to ride on, but those horned dinosaurs were very nervous and grumpy. I don't think we should ask him." Triceratops moved away to munch leaves off a bush, and Brendan looked off into the distance as a strange dinosaur plodded slowly towards them. It was as big as a single-decker bus, with a rather small head and lots of things like bony plates sticking up along its back. "I know that one," he said. "That's Stegosaurus." "Yeah, you're right. He's usually fairly friendly, but watch out for that tail. He's got spikes on, and he likes to swing it around to scare off anything that wants to eat him." The dinosaur waffled up to meet them, and Acorn said, "Hi, Stegger, this is Brendan. He likes reading about you, and he's looking for someone to give him a ride." Stegosaurus chuckled. "I could certainly carry you, Brendan, but there's not much room on my back with all those sharp plates sticking up. Why not try my friend Ankylosaurus? He'll be along in a minute." And he ambled away to munch a few trees of his own. Brendan had a thought. "We've seen lots of dinosaurs, Acorn, and most of my favourites too. Were there really so many around?" "It's a good question," Acorn said. "In real life they'd have been spread all over the world. You'd never see so many different kinds in one place. And they didn't all live at the same time. Tyrannosaurus didn't arrive till the dinosaurs were nearly over. But this is a storybook, so they can all come together here. Now, here's Ankylosaurus. Let's see if he will give you a ride." Ankylosaurus snuffled and gruntled up to them. He was about the same size as Triceratops, and his head was bigger than Stegosaurus, but his whole body was covered in lumps and bumps. "That's my armour," he said proudly. "It goes all the way round, so anything that tries to chomp me will probably break his teeth." Acorn laughed. "We promise not to try. This is Brendan, and he wants to ride on a dinosaur. Will you let him ride on you?" Ankylosaurus said, "I don't mind, but it won't be very comfortable." And he was right. There were so many lumps and bumps that there was nowhere for Brendan to sit. And anyway, Ankylosaurus wasn't even as big as an elephant, quite small as dinosaurs go. So Brendan said, "Thank you for letting me try," and climbed back down. They waved goodbye, and Ankylosaurus trundled off into the forest. Acorn said, "Well, let's see now. Archaeopteryx and Compsognathus are too small to ride on. Tyrannosaurus is too scary, and Triceratops is too grumpy. There's no room on Stegosaurus's back, with all those plates, and Ankylosaurus is much too bumpy." He thought for a moment, then he said, "But I know exactly who we need. Hop on, we'll go down to the swamp." As they moved together over the hill, two enormous dinosaurs came into view. They both had bodies as big as double-decker buses, with long necks and tails that made them look even bigger. Acorn said, "These are the giants, Brendan. They don't need to be scared of anything. If old Tyran tried to attack one of these, they'd just step on him. The smaller one, that's a Patosaurus. He used to be called Brontosaurus, but that turned out to be wrong." Brendan said excitedly, "And the big one, I know him. He's Diplodocus." "Yeah, you're right. You can tell them apart because Diplodocus is a bit bigger, and he has those little spiky things all down his neck and back. Let's see if they'll talk to us." He waved at the larger dinosaur and shouted, "Hi there, Diplodocus. This is Brendan. He's read a lot about you, and he wonders if you'll give him a ride, please." Diplodocus stopped munching the treetop and looked down, and down, and down. He said, "You're very small, aren't you?" "I am right now," Brendan said, "but I could make myself as big as you if I wanted to." "Ah, I see. You're a human in my storybook world. You could be anything you wanted, of course. But if I'm to give you a ride, I would rather you stayed about human size." He lowered his head right down to the ground. "Hop on, then, and hold tight. I can't stretch my neck up to the sky, but I can get it higher than the treetops." To Brendan it felt like going up on a huge extending forklift. Soon they were higher than the trees, and Brendan could see for miles all around. Diplodocus said, "I can't walk very fast, but I can swing my head around, and that will give you a sort of ride, if you hold on tight." As Diplodocus began to stretch and bend his neck, it felt like a giant roller coaster, moving up and down and swaying from side to side, and Brendan thought it was great. Then Diplodocus said, "I've thought of something else, Brendan. Do you like slides?" Brendan remembered the big bumpy slide at his favourite soft play centre. "Oh, yeah," he said, but then he looked at Diplodocus's long neck with all its little spikes. "I can't slide down your neck, though." Diplodocus laughed in his deep voice. "No, and not my tail, either. But look at my friend a Apatosaur. She has a smooth neck and a smooth tail. Let's see if you can ride on her." Apatosaur moved her head close enough for Brendan to scramble across from Diplodocus. He wasn't nervous, even though they were so high up. He could always fly if he fell off. But there was no problem. Brendan carefully turned around on the huge head and looked all the way down from the dinosaur's ears to the tip of her tail. Apatosaur said, "Well, off you go then." And Brendan began to slide down the long, straight neck. He started slowly, then picked up speed until, by the time he reached Apatosaur's back, he was going faster than he could run. And then he bounced up and down across the long back and finally slid gently to the ground along the long, smooth tail. Brendan said, "Whoa, that was great! Can we do it again?" Apatosaur laughed. "Of course you can, Brendan. It tickles." She lowered her head for Brendan to clamber on, then lifted him high into the air, ready for another long slide. They were having so much fun that Brendan forgot about time, but after his fifth go, Acorn put his hand up. "It's okay for you picture book creatures, but young Brendan has to get plenty of sleep. We should go back now." Brendan climbed onto Acorn's back and waved goodbye to the two giant dinosaurs. Diplodocus said, "Come and see us again soon," and Brendan promised that he would. Next morning, Mummy said, "I thought we might go to the play centre today, the one with the biggest slide I've ever seen." Brendan said, "Oh, yes, please. I like that slide. But I think I know where there's one that's even bigger."